In our politics lead, former Republican Secretary of State Colin Powell is speaking out against President Trump's response to the George Floyd protests and much more, telling me that the president has, quote, drifted away from the U.S. Constitution and that Trump is a liar and dangerous for the country. Powell endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016, but his outspokenness about his opposition to Trump's reelection in a State of the Union interview with me yesterday was remarkable. And it comes as a veritable battalion of former top generals and admirals have launched a rhetorical assault on Mr. Trump's actions and rhetoric. One of the nation's most respected living generals, unleashing over President Trump's handling of the nationwide protests.
We have a Constitution, and we have to follow that Constitution, and the president's drifted away from it.
Former Joint Chiefs Chairman General Colin Powell is just the latest voice in what has become a growing chorus of outrage from former prominent military leaders over Trump's threat to use military force to handle protests over the death of George Floyd.
The most massive protest movement I have ever seen in my life. I think this suggests that the country is getting wise to this, and we're not going to put up with it anymore.
Retired four-star generals and admirals who normally avoid airing their political opinions are now forcefully speaking out, one after another, including the president's first Secretary of Defense, retired Marine General James Mattis, who has avoided criticizing Trump until now, but just wrote his former boss, quote, is the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people, does not even pretend to try. Instead, he tries to divide us. Mattis was quickly backed up by Trump's old chief of staff, retired Marine General John Kelly.
He's quite a man, General Jim Mattis, and for him to do that tells you where he is relative to the concern he has for our country.
Many of these men say the watershed moment to speak out came after Trump threatened to use active duty U.S. military against the very people they are supposed to protect.
Our military should never be called to fight our own people as enemies of the state.
We have a wonderful relationship with the people in this country, and I thought it important to continue to work to try to keep that relationship sound and solid. And, you know, inflammatory language can be an impediment to that.
Others cited their tipping point as watching officers clear out peaceful protesters from outside the White House so the president could pose for a photo op holding a Bible.
You're not going to use, whether it's a military or the National Guard or law enforcement, to clear peaceful American citizens for the President of the United States to do a photo op. There is nothing, morally right about that.
That is what happens in authoritarian regimes.
The list of former top military leaders pushing back against President Trump continues to grow, all saying their decision to speak out boils down to where their ultimate loyalties lie.
We all raise our right hand and we swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States. It is not to the President of the United States, it is to the Constitution.
Now, for some of these former officials, their concerns over President Trump predated the recent unrest and go beyond his handling of the U.S. military. Admiral McRaven, the man who oversaw the Osama bin Laden raid, wrote a scathing op-ed last year accusing the president of assaulting, quote, the intelligence and law enforcement community, the State Department, and the press. In 2016, General Powell called the birther movement Trump led against then-President Obama racist in leaked emails.
Birthers movement had it to do with the fact that the President of the United States, so President Obama, was a black man. That was
General Powell, whom Ronald Reagan saw as the future of the Republican Party and who served as Secretary of State for George W. Bush, is once again not voting for Donald Trump. Instead, he threw his support behind former Vice President Joe Biden. Why is it so important to you that President Trump not be reelected?
Because I think he has been not an effective president. He lies all the time. Every American citizen has to sit down, think it through, and make a decision on their own. Don't listen to everybody out there. Don't read every newspaper. Think it through. Use your common sense and say, is this good for my country? Before you say this is good for me.
Earlier today, I reached out to the White House for